Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone present today and those watching the broadcast and call the May 11th, 2017 special meeting to order with all board members present. If you wish to address the board on any of the agenda items before the board today and your name is not on the speaker list printed on blue paper located at both entrances to the auditorium, and if you've not already submitted a request for public testimony form, please complete the form and submit it to Cheryl Ward, our board action officer. Please note that the board does not hear non-agenda public testimony at special meetings. Speakers on agenda items will be called on to speak during the discussion of the agenda item. Once discussion begins on an item, no additional public speaker requests will be accepted by the board. No deferral of time is allowed, and the board requests that speakers focus their comments on issues and not on individuals. Our bylaws provide that public testimony on agenda items is limited to a maximum of 20 minutes per consent and/or action item, allowing for a maximum of 10 minutes per opposing viewpoint. Public testimony speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker, and depending upon the total number of speaker requests received by the board on an item, the time may be reduced to 2 or 1 minute each. And the time limit for speakers on today's agenda items will be announced at each item. Can we get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, please vote. Okay, let's move to item B1, right, yeah. Oh, yeah, right. So this is our work year reduction for paraeducator employees. Superintendent Martin.
Thank you. Last night, on item B1 last night, following today's agenda being published, the district did receive notification from the paraeducator unit that their members had ratified the agreement regarding a furlough, and that's now included in item B2, so there was no action required or necessary for item B1. We can now move to item B2.
Okay, can we get a motion?
I'll move item B2, which is the agreement with the Office Technical and Business Services, OTBS, paraeducators, PARA, and the Police Officers Association, POA, regarding furloughs.
Second.
That's my motion.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. We have one speaker on item B2, and that's Sabrina Hanlon. You have 3 minutes, Sabrina.
I'm not used to that much time.
All right. Okay.
Sabrina Hanlon, paraeducator president. I just want to encourage you to vote yes on this, and I want to express my appreciation for the opportunity to go back to the table and work this out. I feel like I've become family with all these people and my team, and I especially want to thank my team, Jane Bauza, Isel Martinez, Brenda Mitchell, Miguel Aliano, Carrie Morgan. We worked hard. I think we had 5 or 6 sessions. It was a great learning process, as this was my first experience at this type of a situation. But I just want to say thank you for the collaborative work from your team and our team as well. And we worked hard and we accomplished what we needed. It was an overwhelming yes vote. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sabrina. Do you have any comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to express my appreciation and our appreciation for the collaboration with the paraeducators and also the other units, POA and OTBS. It's clearly a very difficult conversation for us and for you, and to be able to arrive at an agreement like this is really the best outcome. So thank you.
Yes, Trustee Weiser.
I just want to say thank you to all the folks at OTBS, the paras, and the POA for coming to the table and working together collaboratively. Because we were able to work together with our bargaining units, we're able to find budget solutions without laying off our library techs. We're able to find budget solutions without laying off mental health clinicians, paraeducators, and we're able to restore, in the current budget proposal, 3 positions, campus safety officers, which are vital to making sure that all of our campuses are safe. So I really want to say thank you that you affirmed our decision to say no to layoffs at the last meeting, and to take the challenge to go back to the table and try to find solutions that will result in no layoffs for these categories. So thank you very much.
Yeah, just briefly, I don't want to be redundant, but it was a solution that went too deep. It was hard, and these were difficult cuts if they would have gone through. It was the collaboration, the coming together that allowed us to able to move forward and to be able to save these positions in order to create the environment and support services that are so important for our students in our schools. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, and I certainly echo those comments. Please vote. Okay, passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, now we'll move to item C1, the resolutions in the matter of the elimination of classified services. I want to note that this item was modified today since POA ratified the work year reduction agreement at item B2. Action recommended is to approve the resolution to eliminate the classified positions in the OSS only, not the POA positions. Superintendent Martin, do you want to introduce this item?
You just introduced it.
Okay, all right.
That's exactly what we're doing, is moving forward with the eliminations that were recommended before on April 25th, and the ones only in the OSS unit going forward tonight. We failed to have a ratified TA from that unit this evening for work year reduction, so we're moving forward with these additional layoffs.
Okay, do we have a motion on this item?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Do we have speakers? No speakers on this item. No further comment. Please vote. Okay, item C2. This is the final review and action on the San Diego Education Association supplemental early retirement plan. Do we have, and we've got some speakers. Do we have a motion
I
on
move
this
to
item?
approve.
Got a motion and a second. We have two speakers, Jane Martin and Lindsay Birmingham. You have 3 minutes each. Yes, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm sorry. I'm Jane Martin. I agree to the SERP, but as I would also like an amendment added to it that I can rescind my paperwork. I'm an ed specialist. I've been at Hancock Elementary for 14 years. I've been a teacher of the year. I am the ed specialist instructional leader at our school, been doing that for 3 years. If teachers got perfect attendance award, I probably would have won it for 13 years out of my 14. On April 4th, I received an email from HR stating that because of the AMR audit that my credential was misassigned and I was not able to do the work. I asked to find out how I could make that good. I got an emergency credential. They gave me 3 colleges I could look at to see if I could get my credential brought up to par. Turned out that the resource specialist certificate is not around anymore. The only schools that had it was one. It was up in LA, which meant I would be working full-time here, driving up to LA 2 or 3. It's not online. I looked at that. I checked local colleges. Nothing was offered. Having a rough go. I don't want to retire. I didn't want to retire, but I didn't know how I could work with my full caseload, have IEP meetings in the afternoon, be driving to LA or taking days off to work in LA or take classes and come back. So I went ahead, after much heartache, I turned in my paperwork at the last minute. 3 days later, I have an email from HR. They made a mistake. I don't want to retire. It turned out I needed an added authorization for ED, because if I had a student on my caseload with ED, then I would be authorized to work with this student. At this time, I do not have a student with ED on my caseload. The emergency credential that I did say that I would get for the resource specialist job can be turned into that if I need to, if a student comes into it. I also looked, where can I get this? I can get it at the San Diego County Office of Ed. I can have it done within 6 months. It's not a problem. The only problem is I'm finding everybody keeps saying I volunteered to do this. I did not volunteer to do this. And if I had been told I needed the ed specialist degree to start with, we would be fine. I wouldn't be going through what I am now. So I ask that the SERP is great. I have so many friends doing it. It needs to go forward. I need to teach. I really want to teach, and I want to work with my students.
Hancock needs her.
Thank you.
Maybe we can refer this item to the superintendent for review.
Thank you.
Lindsay Brenningham, SDEA President. So before I talk at the SERP overall, I will tell you that Carlos Mejia, Aaron Clark, and myself have all tried to address this previous situation that you just heard about. We also had additional members come forward after the deadline that wanted to take the SERP. We got a response from HR saying, and the district, we're keeping the timelines strict. I understand that. There's timelines, you need to keep them strict. Not getting the stuff done in time is one thing, but making a decision based on inaccurate information that you receive from the district is another. It should be considered. She's a hardworking educator at Hancock and should be able to stay there with the students and the community that she loves. Overall on the SERP, we had 528 SDEA unit members accept the SERP. A huge number that I don't think any of us expected. That number is an important number. As we went into this budget crisis, or whatever you want to call it, SDEA was told that through this process you needed to lose 473 SDEA unit members. That was before the 5 of you decided to do the right thing and keep elementary enrichment in our schools, because that's what our students needed. That takes off at least 120 of those 473 positions. That puts us down to 350. You had 528 people take the SERP, and you plan to reduce our unit by 350. There is no reason, and you'll hear from me more with some more math in the next few budget items, there is absolutely no reason why 473 SDEA unit members following your decision tonight should still be in layoff status.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on accepting the SDEA SERP. Any further board comment? If not, please vote. Okay, great.
I would like to make a formal motion to ask the superintendent to look into the Hancock Elementary School teacher situation, please.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second from Trustee Beiser. Any further comment on that? If not, please vote on Trustee Beiser's motion. Great, thank you. Okay, let's move on to item C3, and this is the authorization to withdraw layoff notices of certificated personnel as a result of the SERP.
I'd like to move item C3 to rescind layoffs.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. We have 3 speakers, so we'll allow for 3 minutes apiece. Trace Kimmins, Christina Murguia, and Lindsay Birmingham.
Hello, good evening. My name is Cristina Murguia, and I'm a preschool teacher. I've been in the school district for 18 years, and 10 of those as a preschool teacher. And you're laying me off right now. I have a pink slip in my pocket. At the town hall, Trustee Whitehurst Payne said that district had the right to size because there are preschool teachers sitting in classroom with no students. How could there be teachers in empty classrooms? At the February board meeting, my fellow teachers spoke up and told you, but you didn't hear, so I will tell you again. Superintendent and her top staff, without taking teachers' considerations or point of views, decided to start a fee-based preschool program. In September, they closed sites that already had full classrooms with students, like Dewey and Garfield, and moved them to empty classrooms in other schools. What's even worse is that many of those schools couldn't even accept students because the classrooms were not licensed by the state until months later. That is a bad management, pure and simple. It is 100% superintendent's fault for not listening to us, the teachers, who we know what's going on. ECE teachers oppose all layoffs, but we want to tell you loud and strong that ECE teachers must not pay the price of bad management. And here are some statements of parents who tell you how important we are. It's okay. It's okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Christine.
Trey Simmons, Hancock Elementary School kindergarten teacher. Thank you for looking into Jane Martin's situation. She's truly an amazing teacher for our special ed students. And I think we're all here today to do the math, as Lindsay was mentioning earlier. By doing the math, all layoffs should be rescinded. There have been so... I understand the district's chief financial officer said, let go, get rid, shed 500 positions, you'd be okay. And here we are in our unit alone, almost 1,000 people. I'm grateful for the ones that were rescinded. I do have one of my teachers at my staff that's on that list, and she's very happy right now, but we still have some that we're hoping for, crossing our fingers for. And it just sounds to me, like I said, kindergarten, so I don't do that high math, but it seems to me that this math is kind of not quite working out as it should for the students who need to keep those teachers they have now that have already spent all this time forming those bonds with the student, the families, the community. As we saw at our town hall meetings, it's not just teachers that are demanding these layoffs be taken off the table and everybody recalled. It's the community, it's the students. I mean, I was sitting outside at that last meeting because it was so packed and I was moved to tears by what those children were saying. This is a tough world right now. And the one consistency in these children's lives are the teachers that they work with every day. And I think these layoffs being called off the table now, being rescinded now, keeps those teachers with those families, with those students, keeps that consistency. Don't wait. Don't wait until positions are filled and everybody's moved around and then you recall and people are having to, teachers are going into different communities, different schools, different families and starting that all over again. Let them stay where they are. Make those changes, those choices now. Do the right thing and just rescind all of them. Thank you.
Lindsay Birmingham, SDEA president. So I had the number 85 earlier, but that number's gone up now. Tonight, you're voting on, in this next agenda item, issuing over 90 layoff notices to permanent unit members. In addition to that, over 350 notices remain for our probationary members. We know that you need to bring those educators back. The problem that we've been told is that you don't know who yet. You can look at the information, you can take the time, and you can find out who. We know that those educators, with 528 people taking the CERT, those educators are going to be needed in classrooms. You need to do it now instead of putting people, students, families, and schools through this turmoil. You are going to job fairs. Our members are going to job fairs. Because you know following this, you are going to still need educators. There is no reason why 473 people following tonight should still have layoff notices. The longer you wait to recall, the the smaller the pool of people you will have to recall from. Not only are you going to job fairs, our members are being recruited from districts across the county, the state, and even other states have started contacting people. You are currently setting us up for an unstable start to the 2017-18 school year. Opening the school year with classrooms that have no fully credentialed and qualified teachers. Our educators can't just continue to look out for you and their students. They have to look out for themselves too, and are starting to accept an interview in other districts and for other positions. 5 years ago, when we were in the deepest parts of the recession, you could play Russian roulette. You could get away with this because no other districts were hiring. Right now, we can't afford to do that. Other districts are hiring, they're hiring our members, and they're hiring our members starting now. If you wait until July, August, September, these members will have other positions, and you are losing extremely dedicated, highly qualified staff who have built foundations, who have built relationships, who have built partnerships with their school community, and those educators are walking away. You have wasted thousands of dollars training them, putting support into them, and you are now going to lose them if you don't make the right decision. Post and bid opens on May 15th. Some of these people that have layoff notices, those positions are being posted. If you recall them in July or August, you have already upset that school community.
Okay, thank you. We've got a motion and a second on this item. I'd like to comment and maybe actually offer a slight amendment to the item. I certainly support the rescissions that are part of this item, and I do believe it's a good start, but I also, the math that Lindsay talked about, I find compelling as well. And I've had this conversation at length with the superintendent over the last few days. I still have a hard time understanding why when the number of early retirements exceed the number of positions that we're cutting in order to meet our budget challenge, why the number of layoffs would remain as high as it is. I think that number needs to come down. I understand the point in time that we're at tonight, but I also agree, and I have had this conversation with Superintendent Martin as well, that the post and bid process is crucial. And before final offers are made through the post and bid process that would result in somebody being placed in a position that somebody on the layoff list would lose, and then we bring somebody from the layoff list back that they're not in their same position, that kind of destabilization it is concerning. So my amendment would be that by the time of the first reading of the final budget, which would be the middle of June, which is prior to when the final offers would go forward, but is enough time to allow the post and bid process to go forward, that the total number of layoffs that comes back as part of the final budget adoption is significantly reduced from where we're at today on May 11th. So that would be my, my amendment to the motion.
Not good enough. Not good enough for second now.
So let me first ask, is there a second to my amendment to the...
Yes, I will second that, and I understand the motion that, and our intent all along is to, first of all, rescind as many as possible. I know that...
All of them, or
I know...
your job. Yeah.
I know that the superintendent has also said that even as we go forward in terms of approving the permanent layoff notices that are coming on there in the agenda, that even as they're able to calculate between now and the next couple of days that any possible ones, so it's going to be done on a regular basis. The issue is, and I know that this is what Ms. Birmingham has pointed out in terms of the numbers and the math and the number of early retirements and so forth, is that the issue is we can only pay for a certain number of positions with our budget. And so what we've tried to do is reduce the number of layoffs through SERP and so forth. And so obviously our charge to the superintendent is to do everything as quickly as possible in the way that will be most stabilizing of the schools, but that it also will not put us in financial jeopardy for the following year and the subsequent years.
Okay. Yes, Trustee Beiser.
I just want to bring clarity to the action that we're taking right now.
Yes.
Item C3 is an action to rescind 485 notices. And so, to vote yes right now would mean that 485 folks would be brought back into the, off the layoff list.
Right.
And that also your amendment is to direct the staff and the superintendent to, with full diligence, work to try to mitigate any additional, and to try to continue rescinding layoffs as they find the need for those teachers and nurses and counselors in various schools, and to make sure that we have a drop-dead date in June by the first reading of the budget, which will result in the least amount of impact to schools. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So can we vote on the amended motion, or do people want to vote on the amendment first and then on the full motion? What's the board's preference?
Okay, well, let's
Well,
vote on,
if
let's
it's a
vote on the
friendly
amendment.
Vote on
amendment,
it.
then the
We
motion,
accept, who made the motion? Did I make the motion? Who made the initial motion?
I believe I made the motion to rescind layoffs,
Okay.
C3.
So if it's a friendly...
So I'll
okay.
accept your friendly amendment.
I
Okay.
believe I seconded, and so.
Okay, so let's vote on the amended motion. Thank you.
Okay.
The motion is amended.
Okay, thanks. Okay, we now move to item C4, and this is the adoption of the administrative law judge proposed decision as a final decision of the Board of Education and a resolution in the matter of the reduction in force of certificated employees. We've got one speaker, Lindsay Birmingham. Lindsay, you've got 3 minutes.
So I just want to make it clear to those in the audience and all of you up here what exactly you're voting on right now. So you're voting on to accept the administrative law judge's decision, and within that decision, the administrative law judge determined that the skip criteria that the district had selected was too narrow, that you should not be skipping dual immersion teachers, as there are multiple teachers within this bargaining unit that can teach in a bilingual setting or dual immersion setting, and you should not be skipping TK teachers, because again, there are multiple people that were skipped out of seniority order that do qualify to teach that position. In addition to that, you're voting on issuing 92 permanent layoff notices, or layoff, I guess it's the final layoff notice, to permanent SDEA unit members. Those are SDEA unit members that have been in this district for well over 2 years. Some well over 2 years, some 2 years. But in order to get permanent status, you need to have at least 2 years, and many of them have much more of that through temporary contracts, visiting teacher, and whatnot. In the last year or 2 years, we also, in addition to that, have probationary unit members. In addition to the 92 layoff notices, and I know you're talking about numbers, so I might be off, but I know it's right around there. In addition to the 92 permanent layoff notices, you still have, I believe, over 350 probationary unit members that still have layoff notices. So right now, you're not only voting on 92, you're also accepting that an additional 350 people remain in layoff status who are probationary employees. If you didn't need those employees, why have you hired over 350 unit members in the last 2 years? The district should have more closely watched their hiring practices, and we would not be in the situation we're in today, where you're having to lay off individuals that, again, you have devoted time, money, and energy in. If you didn't need those employees, you shouldn't have hired them in the first place, and misled them to believe that they had stable employment where they were going to be able to start families and support their families and have benefits for their families. Some of those probationary members are mothers, are fathers, are newly pregnant unit members who will not have coverage following September if those notices are not recalled. They should have never been promised that employment if that was not something that this district was going to be able to sustain. So again, as I stated before, with the 528 early retirement incentives that have been accepted, with the overissuance of your layoff notices due to the skips, due to the tiebreakers, and due to the extra notices you always issue year after year, there is no reason why 473 SDEA members should remain in layoff status when we leave here tonight.
Okay, do we have a motion and a second on this item?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Second. Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple
Trustee
questions.
Weiser? Yeah.
I had requested a list of new hires since we implemented the hiring freeze, and I'm looking through the list. There are 4 pages of people that have been hired since there was a hiring freeze. Now, I'm looking through, I just received this about an hour and a half ago, and I'm looking through it, and a lot of them are important hires, because the condition of the hiring freeze was that if it is an essential position, then that could be hired. And then also if it's funded through a restricted funding account, then that is separate from the general fund concerns. So there's a lot of food service workers which are restricted, which are .25, and that makes sense. There are a couple noon duty assistants that are important for safety and security of the kids, and that's like a .1 FTE. So most of it seems reasonable to me, but then there are a couple of things that I'm not sure I understand. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 elementary teachers that were hired since the hiring freeze. So I'm, part of me is wondering, why did we just hire 10 elementary credential teachers if we're being told we have too many elementary credential teachers? And then it dawned on me why we need them. Because we need teachers in these classrooms. And then that, I think, leads me to look at other information. And back when we first were looking at when we were first looking at the initial preliminary layoff notices, we asked how many Probe 1 and Probe 2 teachers do we not need? And one of the things that was kind of interesting that I think has been mentioned in comments just a moment ago was that last year we hired, I'm not exactly sure, don't quote me on this, we hired over 100 elementary school credential teachers last year that are Probe 1s. And the number could be wrong, please don't quote me on that, but it's just kind of ballparkish. And so it begs the question, why did we hire so many elementary credential teachers if now we're being told we don't need that many elementary credential teachers? So I was wondering if we could, so that kind of has always been in the back of my mind, and I think that's something that we've talked about, and I was wondering if maybe staff could talk a little bit about that, because it was raised during public comment.
Superintendent, did you want to?
Our Chief of HR and Executive Director of HR will come up to discuss specifically temps to backfill some leaves is one answer, and they can give you more specific detail.
Okay. So about how many elementary credential teachers that are in Probe 1 status?
I can get that information for you. I don't have it with me right now as far as...
I believe it was over 100.
Sure.
Okay. So then, as a board, I'm just trying to ask a simple question is, why did we hire so many elementary credential teachers last year if our assessment is that we have too many?
So last year when we hired, we had a number of people who had been temporary teachers for a number of years, and we felt that it was appropriate to change those employees to probes. So if they had been a temp for a number of years, we would tack back a year and they would become probationary 2 employees. That was a number of those people had been working for us for 5 or 6 years. So we determined to change those over to probationary employees.
Okay.
So that's part of it, was just acknowledging and honoring the people that had been working for us for a long period of time.
Okay.
So the other positions that you're talking about right now on that list since January, if a teacher goes out on a pregnancy leave or a medical leave, what we do is we backfill with a temporary contract for the remainder of the school year so that employee gets benefits and the salary commensurate with having to do all the lesson planning and everything else that they would do.
So then these 11 teachers that were hired, are all 11 of them are covering somebody that's out on leave, probably?
Yes.
Okay. Are these temporary contracts?
Yes.
Okay. And then there's 2 of them there's 2 teachers that were hired since the hiring. There's 2 teachers that were hired since the hiring freeze that have Mod Severe credentials. Now, are there any Mod Severe credential teachers on the permanent layoff list? That are
Yes.
in permanent or, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so that kind of, makes me ask, well, if the current PKS has Mod Severe credential teachers, then why did we hire these 2
Because
Mod
we're
Severe
talking
credential
about
teachers?
staffing for this year.
Okay.
As opposed to staffing for next year.
Okay.
Based on a new budget reality for next year.
Okay, so since the hiring freeze, we hired them knowing that we then would lay them off because we wouldn't need them next
We
year?
hired them as temps
Okay.
to backfill a position for someone who could be out on a medical or a pregnancy leave for the rest of the school year. And that's very common practice to do that.
Yeah, Dr. Whitehouse-Payne.
All right.
Just a comment on that. Having spent 17 years in HR, I just want to comment on that. Number one, if a person is in an assignment and they're finishing out a year, that person deserves to get benefits. And if they're just working as a sub without medical benefits, that's not fair. So you have to give them a contract in order for them to get their benefits. And I believe that even if they come in half a year, they deserve to get the full package for that year.
Absolutely.
That's a given. And then also with the hiring for last year and looking at that issue, we're now looking at bringing back into the fold vice principals, I believe, and some other positions that have been cut, which is going to, and some management position. Those folks will go back into the teacher, into SDEA bargaining units
Yes,
if they
they
have
will.
credential in that area.
Yes.
So it's not the 2 from last year or this year, and then comparing going forward is not the same. And you have the advantage of having that list that I don't think any of the rest of us have. But
Well, I originally asked for the list several weeks ago in the hopes that I would get it and be able to kind of process it and meet with staff before tonight, but I just got the list, half hour before the meeting.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a motion? We do. We've got a motion and a second on this item. Dr. McQuarrie?
Yeah, just have additional comment. This ruling came from Abraham Levy. He's an administrative law judge, Office of Administrative Hearings. And what we're referring to are the factual findings. And there are 34 factual findings. The last two are 33 and 34. And I just want to read them so you get a sense of these two, what he calls miscellaneous considerations. So item 33, he says, there was no evidence that the district proposes to eliminate any services that are mandated by state or federal law or regulations. So these eliminations are not contrary to our obligations as a district to meet the needs of students as described by law. Item 34, the respondents argued that the district over-noticed teachers for layoffs, and the district's decisions to lay off teachers was arbitrary and capricious. This argument is rejected because the district has broad discretion to make budgetary decisions, and there is no evidence that the district's decision was arbitrary or capricious or based on fraud. Any other assertions made by the parties at the hearing and not addressed above are found to be without merit and are rejected. So we're taking action on a decision of Abraham Levy, administrative law judge, that shows the district did not act capriciously. We did act within the law, and these were not arbitrary and not fraudulent.
Word is numbered.
Okay, with no further comment, please vote. Okay. Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.